Yeah, everyone, we're ready to get started with our first keynote. And our speaker is the Chief Commercial Officer of Last Mile Solutions. And in his talk, he's going to present his company's perspectives on the evolving business models in the EV charging industry and also the high impact changes that we can all anticipate. So ladies and gentlemen, let's have a very warm welcome for Joris Hupperets. Joris, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mariana. It's a pleasure to be here. Great to see so many industry players together in one room. That's quite unique. And so first of all, big thanks to the Hubject team for organizing this. It's getting better and better every year. In the next 25 minutes, we're going to discuss, I'll first give a short introduction about Last Mile Solutions, and then dive into next generation business models. And actually, I would like to make it a dialogue. I would like to go in interaction with you and actually ask your feedback to make it really dynamic and interactive. To do that, we're going to use another tool. You can still ask questions in the Hubject app, but we're going to use another tool. And to warm you up, I'm actually going to ask you to try it out first. Please take out your smartphone and go via your web browser to menti.com. Use the 8-digit code. And let's start with a warm-up question. How are you feeling today? We'll use the app later on, but this is first a tryout. How are you feeling? Very interested. Frankly, feeling a bit excited. I think I have a bit of an elevated, indeed excited, elevated heart rate. All right, we see the responses coming in. Very good. Some people feeling wet. Yeah, the weather conditions aren't favorable today, but that shouldn't stop us. Some people are tired, probably looking forward to the coffee break. Great. So, very good. We see plenty of answers coming in. Awesome, amazing. Well, this is going to be another exciting ICNC event, I'm sure about that. So that's the start. Thank you very much. It seems to work. If we look at the number of respondents, 71, 73. So in terms of volume, that's really works. So we're going to use it again later on with more serious questions and actually to also deep dive on the next generation business model. Great. Things keep on coming in. I think I should now push the button and then probably it stops. Yes, so starting with a brief introduction. Thank you very much. Thanks for your cooperation. Starting with a short introduction about Last Mile Solutions. We're one of Europe's leading EV charging and smart energy management platforms, so fully white label SaaS platform, offering a full service stack for both CPOs and EMSPs in Europe. Apart from that, we have a unique in-house billing, settlement and collection service that we do on behalf of our CPOs and MSPs. Fully tax compliant throughout Europe. So really unique service that we offer in all the complexity of the tax administration we have in our business. We're strategically independent, meaning our strategy, our shareholders are not participating in this industry, so are not somewhere in the value chain, so no third-party CPOs, MSPs. It really makes us strategically independent and allows us to make the best choices for our clients and obviously also for the company. Last but not least, we're proud to say that we're the largest SaaS platform in Europe. If we look at some of the key metrics, the key figures that will display that, by July 23, so a bit more than a month ago, we have 147,000 charge points directly connected to our platform, so basically on the CPO side. So directly connected, so that is excluding third-party roaming networks. So basically that's another, 450, 500,000 charge points. But that's on top of this. So 147,000 directly connected. Then we have about 800,000 active charge cards on the platform, which leads to transactions processed per month, currently around 2.3, 2.4 million. If you look back at the history from Last Mile Solutions, it total adds up to 57 million transactions processed, and obviously also most of them also invoiced and collected. So actually 2.3 million on a monthly basis. So probably we're going to at least add 25 to 30 million transactions this year to the business. We managed that with a fairly small team of around 100 FTE, a bit more, distributed over 4 different offices, headquartered in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and then we have offices in Paris, Berlin, and Krakow, Poland. So that's a short introduction about last mile solutions for those who don't know us yet. Talking about business models actually is also quite interested, or at least I wanted to share with you how the business model of last mile solutions evolved over time, because there have been some changes over time. So in the late 1990s, the company started as a remote managed technology provider, if I say it correctly, in telco business, but also boat security, traffic management. So basically always a combination of software and hardware in different industries, and really designing and developing and selling those solutions. Obviously, in the second half of the 2000s, eMobility started, EV charging popped up, and that's why the founders chose to really move to one single industry, and that was the EV charging, and actually focus again on combination of software and hardware, in this case, the SaaS platform, the charging management platform, and also the controller side, so the hardware side, so the intelligence in the charging hardware. So actually that was one big shift. Later on, smart charging and grid management were added to the proposition, and by the end, well, actually it was 2019, decision was made actually to focus, right? So industry grew, business grew, focus on SaaS platform only, and divest the activities in the charger controllers, obviously also because of the evolution. But the main reason was focus, and also focus on scalable and recurring revenue business models at that time. In hindsight, that timing was perfect, because obviously 2020, we all know COVID kicked in, chip shortages, supply chain challenges, so not the most ideal time to be in the hardware business. Obviously, that focus on the SaaS platform paved the way for further European expansion, so that's where we are right now, active in 8 or 9 European countries with the SaaS management platform. Just to give a history about the changes of business model, even in the early industry of EV charging where we're in, that some of our companies, at least Last Mile Solutions, has already made significant changes in its business model, because that's what we're talking about. So that's, again, an introduction of the history of Last Mile Solutions. We're going to use the Menti again. Actually, I'm also interested to who we have in the audience. I think it's one, we start with a similar question as before, but please go to Menti again. And ask, I'm interested to learn who we have in the audience. It's quite a similar question as before, but let's try it again. What's your company's core role in the EV charging value chain? And now we have, well, the different options, CPO, MSP, hardware suppliers, SaaS platform, payment service providers, investors, and unfortunately other. I hope the category is not that big, because that means my segmentation was not complete. All right, we see a nice mix, a nice equal mix, I see, between CPO, MSP, also SaaS platforms, hardware suppliers. Very good. Interested to see what is in other, but and great to see that we also have some governments or authorities and investors at the table. That's always important stakeholders in the whole value chain. Okay, thank you very much. And I'll get a clear picture. We have a wide variety of different players. I have one more last question about your introduction. In how many countries are you active? Actually, do you offer your core products and services? So are we talking here to, let's say, do we have in the audience national champions, or do we have players that are active on a pan-European level? And that's quite interesting what we see here, that actually a lot of companies, even their EV charging products and services, I mean, are really, well, close to pan-European, seeing more than 20 countries active. Still also some local champions or some national champions focusing on one country. So again, here a very nice mix. So nice to meet you. Thank you for your introduction. Now it's about time to move into next generation business models. If we look at next generation business models, we actually first start looking at the underlying drivers. What are the underlying drivers that create new or initiate new business models? And actually, we first have to realize that we're in an emerging market, right? So we're in the S-curve. We're actually at the point where the peak of the how do you call it? The steep part of the S-curve starts. So really in an emerging market. So we already have a significant size, but also significant growth ahead. If we look at Europe, I think there were in 22 1.6 million battery electric cars sold. So that's quite a significant volume, right? That's quite significant compared to a few years ago. On the other hand, we see also significant growth ahead, because in percentage-wise, it was only 12% of the new passenger car sales in 2022. So it's of a significant size, 1.6 million per year, but still only 12%, so still 88% to go in terms of penetration rate. That will have impact on new business models. Of course, technology advancements, same reason why actually this industry started. Without the battery technology evolution, we probably wouldn't have been driving electric. And last but not least, regulatory uncertainty. We'll dive into these 3 different topics, and obviously I will ask your feedback again on those topics. Starting with significant size and growth. It's a bit more theoretical part. What you see here is the value chain, so from installation, hardware, software, CPO, MSP, of course, there's simplification of the real situation. What we saw 5 to 10 years ago, that to be active in the market was still, at that time, still very immature, but to be active in the market, you had to cover the whole value chain. Because simply there were no software platforms available off the shelf. Standards between different parties or between the different steps in the value chains were immature. Of course, we had OCPP, but not the full functionalities. So you had, as a player, to be active, to offer a full service, you had to cover a large part of the value chain. So if you look at the early stage players that were in the industry, they covered a large part of the value chain. Of course, there were some parties that were designated and focusing on one item, but the majority of the players that started at that time covered the full value chain. So that was the early stage. If we look now, we have significant size and significant growth. Actually, we see a much more fragmentation of business models. So actually, of course, we know that standards have evolved, have matured. Software platforms are available. We say it's quite some software players in the house today. Even CPOs and MSPs can focus now on their business because there are many players available. And also see niches emerging. Like, for instance, we have new parties that are purely focusing on the reservation of EV chargers. Just a single company, one business model focusing just on a tiny piece, somewhere between CPO and MSP, the tiny piece of reservation of EV charging. Same counts for EV charging loyalty programs. So somewhere you see all the little niches that now, with the significant size of the industry, are created. So, I mean, if you're an early stage player still covering the full value chain, you should actually wonder also, okay, what makes sense? Does it make sense to continue playing on all different steps in the value chain, or should I maybe look for where to specialize and where to actually insource external expertise? So that's first, right? So the first topic is further specialization and nichification of the business models. That's a bit of the theory part. Actually, now I want to go into interaction with you again about one of my favorite topics, that's technology advancements. So if we look at the different technologies around us, we see the evolution of the batteries that keeps on going. Looking forward to the solid-state batteries. We have the megawatt charging standard on the right. The whole AI boom and autonomous driving technology that is developing. We have battery swapping back again, and the whole evolution regarding bidirectional charging, renewable grid integration. I mean, there's so many things in terms of technology happening. But let's also not forget that, well, we've seen technologies in the past which didn't always break through, right? So we've seen, for instance, inductive charging, very promising, at least I think a few years ago it was very promising, but we haven't seen it as a breakthrough yet. Same counts for the blockchain. Obviously, a lot was happening a few years ago, but has it really breakthrough yet? Unfortunately not. We'll see whether it actually will. And here I want to interact with you. So how many times do we have so many industry expertise in one room? And actually, I would like to ask you, where do you think of which technologies will have the biggest impact on EV charging business models in the next 5 years? So really, as an industry, where do we think these technologies, and you can free format, you can add up to 2 responses, where do you think we will see technologies that have breakthroughs on the EV charging business models? All right, we see a lot coming in. Card payments, yes. Plug and charge. Batteries. All right. Wow, that's a lot of different technologies. We see a lot of plug and charge, V2X, V2G. We see, I think, a lot of machine learning, AI, and that's going really fast. Loyalty schemes, ad hoc payments. All right, thank you very much. Plug and charge, obviously. There's one interesting in there. I think it was bidon, BD. I think we have microphones in the audience. For me, that's totally new. Anyone who typed in bidon and BD? What or BD is bidirectional charging, but what is bidon? Is that? Is it a typo? Yes. Okay, yeah. I just thought I missed. We missed on a very interesting technology, but it's probably a typo. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I totally agree with you, and especially on the side of AI autonomous driving. That's my personal opinion. Is that obviously if we reach level 4 autonomous driving. Obviously, the question is whether we will make that in the next 5 years, but that will totally disrupt the EV charging business models. Because simply, well, home charging, why would you home charge with an autonomous vehicle? Same for workplace charging. Even charging along the highway and grabbing a coffee, obviously that's not what an autonomous vehicle is very likely to do. So here I expect that, especially if to really disrupt the business models, probably comes from that direction. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and great to see Plug and Charge in here as well, together with the bidon. All right. Next topic, also again would like to have your feedback, is on the regulatory uncertainty. I know it's not the most sexy topic of today, but really it has an impact on our business model, and it really has an impact on which business models succeed and which business models, do not succeed. So we have we all know it, the whole ICNC calibration law topic, cyber security, ad hoc payment requirements. So obviously recently released, I think it's the first time we've seen so many payment service providers at ICNC. That must come with a reason. Roaming obligation, I think there are some discussions whether roaming should become obligatory in the UK. I think that's being discussed, definitely not finalized yet. We have price transparency, obviously smart charging regulations, again also in the UK, one of the first to set smart charging regulations. And then we have the whole renewable energy credits and energy taxation. Obviously, I'm from the Netherlands. Actually, the impact that renewable energy credits and energy taxation had on public charging in the Netherlands were quite amazing. It really boosted the business model. What happened? Public chargers could participate in the renewable energy credit scheme for fossil fuels. And there was also a, let's say, favorable tax on public charging in the Netherlands. And that's probably one of the reasons, obviously the reason why the business case was very favorable, but also one of the reasons why you'll probably see that many public chargers, both AC and DC, in the Netherlands. And it's just energy credits and taxation that really incentivized and boosted the success of that business model. So again, and this is not an easy question, I know that, but which regulatory topics do you think will have the biggest impact on EV charging business models in the next 5 years? I know it's not easy, but you don't have to mention well, you can mention the regulations, doesn't matter. For sure, AFIR, it already is there. It already has impact, and it will have impact. VAT treatment, of course. Roaming regulation. good to see that still iGecht is coming back. This is there for several years, but still popping up. Nice job, Joris. Thank you very much. Cyber resilience, indeed. So we see actually, well, of course, subsidies, competitive regulations, that's an interesting one. So that's also what we've seen in more maturing industries, that anti-competition or anti-protection laws or competition laws were set up. Definitely. Okay, great. Great to see a lot of VAT taxation, AFI, roaming coming back as all expected. Lobbyism, dynamic prices, indeed. All right. No, thank you very much for your feedback. I see eBPD. Well, I have another question. Anyone? eBPD? What is it? What are we actually? Over there. Can we have a microphone? Of course. Yes, please, over here. Thank you very much.
Performance Buildings Directive, so the impact of the AFIR for public charging, you see the EPPD for private and or home charging. So the regulation that will come soon.
And that's the threshold for a number of chargers in parking garages, or is
allowance right to plug at your home, at the office. So that's mandatory on new buildings.
Exactly.
Charging will be there.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, so we see a lot of different legislation coming to us, right? And I think what I personally believe is that if we have the whole smart charging, bi-directional regulations, and also the taxation around that. So how do you actually tax bi-directional charging? If that is resolved, and how we get the grid codes in place to allow bi-directional charging, I think this whole business models of bi-directional charger really can take off, right? Because without clarity on taxation, without strong cooperation of the grid operators, it will be very tough to actually make that business model flourish. So thanks again for your feedback. I think what is key here also is to understand that obviously there's a lot coming to us, and obviously there are also a lot of other stakeholders in the field that obviously also want to influence regulations. So in case you haven't done it yet, it's free promotion for Charge Up Europe, but I really can recommend that as an industry we join forces and also make sure that we have a joint voice towards the regulators, and also to take care of our own industry, but also for our clients. So in case you haven't done it yet, really recommend to join Charge Up Europe. We're running a bit out of time. Summarizing, we've seen the 3 different elements, and thank you for your feedback in this short time period. We've seen the significant size and growth leading to further nichification and specialization of business models. We've seen many technologies, including V2G, including AI, that will actually have a high potential to disrupt some of our business models, and obviously the whole regulatory uncertainty, which we definitely have to monitor. So that's what we see as the key drivers, and thank you for your feedback again on next generation business models. Before I end, there's one thing I wanted to share with you, obviously, is that what is also critical, also not understanding it, what is also critical if we look at the history of business, is that actually as a company you change before you actually have to. That's quite important. So in sailorman's terms, shift sails before the storm hits. Because otherwise we see that you can't be too late, right? So be early in identifying the next generation business models and avoid getting into the storm. Because once you're in the storm, as a company, obviously it's hard to shift course, to change course, and shift sail. So, and we've seen plenty of examples of companies that in history that obviously failed because of change made too late. We have Netscape. Actually, what was the bundling of Windows with Internet Explorer that. So actually, the lack of unbundling regulation that actually led to basically the stop of Netscape. We have Palm. I'm not sure whether you remember Palm, the personal digital assistants. They totally missed out on the wireless voice and data. Company I think it doesn't exist anymore. Closer to home, I'm sure some of you recognize the logo. We have Better Place. So obviously, stick to battery swapping too long and ignored, or it didn't dive into the development of DC fast charging. Obviously, I don't want to end in a negative mode. There are, of course, plenty of companies that also made the change, made the drastic business model change, and stayed away from the storm. Netflix is one of the examples. Obviously, they started as a DVD rental service, and look where they are now. Same counts for Amazon. Look at the different business models they're covering right now. But they actually started just as an online bookstore, and Lego, I think we all know, everybody knows, starting with just the bricks, the tools, but now actually is a multimedia and also a gaming company with all the different business models that we're pursuing. So that's it for now. Thank you again for your feedback. Looking forward to further discuss business models or anything else you would like to discuss at our booth just outside of this main entrance.
So Joris, thank you very much indeed. This was definitely the most interactive keynote we've ever had, I think, in the history of our conference. We have just a few minutes left, but I do know that a number of participants have already sent in their questions. So if we can have a quick look at the questions that have been sent in, that would be fantastic. So we have about 5.5 minutes. So from Tasmin, the question, what do you consider the biggest trends in the public charging CPO business?
Biggest trends in the public charging CPO business? Well, if we look at a bit more medium term, I would and look at the changes in the business models, I think I would expect that let's say the ongoing improvement of battery technology and also the ongoing increase of the fast charging capabilities of the batteries will have a significant impact, right? So if we move to solid state batteries, I think they will be able to charge even at 500 kilowatts. I'm not the expert, but at least that's what I understand. So we really see a trend to higher charging powers. So I mean that's one of the trends that really, as a CPO, I would also always monitor whether to, let's say, what is the right time to invest. And what power levels to invest. So I think that's one of the trends I see in the CPO business that obviously impacts the cost structure of CPOs.
Yep, great. Thank you very much. We have another question. Do you think the market will consolidate into a few large players, or will the fragmentation continue?
Very good question. So when I discuss the different stages of the market development, so current stage we have the nichification, specialization of business models. Obviously, the next stage is indeed the consolidation. Next stage is consolidation, where obviously economies of scale start to play, and we see larger players, which is logical in a situation of a more maturing market. But the question is, when will it start, right? I think in some markets, some mature markets, we'll see it earlier, but that's a logical next step. They will get still fragmentation, but larger players, because it's very easy to have large-scale software platforms. Also for CPOs, there's definitely a scale advantage. So we expect consolidation in the next, starting in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. I think we have one more question. Let's have a look. Yes. So which business or business models are most profitable?
That's the $1 million question. I think what is most essential, that's hard to say. What is most essential that, obviously, when we talk about business model, we see, in our definition, it's where you create value, so which products, which services, which geographies, what is your value proposition, matches with how you create value. So which competencies do you have, and which partnerships do you have, and which technology or IP do you have, right? So if those two should match, and I think if those two match, any business model, probably not any business model, but you can make a lot of business models very profitable. But it's most important that, let's say, where you create value and how you create it, it actually matches, so you're able to actually excel in your industry.
So Joris, you see the clock, so we actually have 2 more minutes left. So maybe
Wonderful.
I can ask you one more question. Maybe you can give everybody a bit of advice. Like, how can the industry prepare itself for all the upcoming challenges, or maybe specifically about the regulatory changes that are coming up?
No advice. I'm not an advisor, but happy to. No, I think when it, let's say, frankly, I'm most personally the regulatory stuff is the most tricky stuff. If we look, for instance, also at AFIR, I think until the last minute it could go separate or different directions, right? So actually, as an industry, make sure we have one voice. Also make sure we have a strong voice against, or not against, but together with all the other stakeholders. It's quite relevant because, yeah, obviously, well, it can have high impact on our business models.
Great. Any final thoughts for the participants? I mean, you asked them a lot of questions, you know, what they think is going to have an impact on future business models. Did you actually tell them what you think?
As mentioned, so the level 4 autonomous driving, I mean, it will come. The question is, will it be there this decade or later on? But I mean, it will definitely disrupt our business models. So let's definitely monitor that because, well, it's on autonomous driving. So why also not autonomous charging at that time, and which is currently, I think, in most players, we were not, let's say, well, of course, it's logical we're not going into that direction yet, but that really will disrupt, well, many of our business models.
All right. Well, thank you very much. You heard it here. Joris Hupperets, thank you so very much indeed. Thank you very much, and thank you for your questions.